A landlord is suing the city of LA for $100 million over its eviction moratorium. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Los Angeles, one of the most tenant-friendly places in the entire country. But before I get into that article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see on this channel. I'm going to work to keep bringing you articles about the eviction moratorium and other news that's of interest to landlords. So, this story is coming out of the Los Angeles Times, and it says, Landlord sues LA for $100 million, saying anti-eviction law caused astronomical losses. Now, this is what I've been wanting to see, okay? I want to see more landlords going directly after these eviction moratoriums, okay? And this is a good case right here because this is a larger landlord, but sometimes the larger landlords have to go after these people because they have the money for the lawyers and to go after, the money. And it will benefit the smaller landlords as well. But let's see what the article says about it. One of the region's most prolific apartment builders has sued the city of Los Angeles over its COVID-19 eviction moratorium, saying his companies have experienced astronomical financial losses and are legally entitled to compensation from the city. GHP Management Corp., which is owned by real estate developer Jeffrey Palmer, said in its lawsuit that 12 buildings that it manages have experienced more than $20 million in lost rental income as a result of the measure. GHP, which filed the lawsuit along with several other Palmer companies, expects that number to triple by the time the provisions of the moratorium have expired. Yeah, $20 million loss, okay? And we don't know how big these buildings are, so if we're talking about 300 or 400 unit apartment complexes, I mean, it is very possible that this could be a huge loss for this company, okay? And that's absolutely no better to me than a small landlord losing their finances as well, okay? There are a lot of individual investors who invest in, big projects like this, and they could lose their shirts just like anyone else. And there's also unintended consequences, and they go into that a little bit further in the article. The city enacted its temporary eviction limits in March 2020, just as COVID-19 was triggering the shutdown of businesses and throwing people out of work, barring building owners from forcing out tenants who could show their inability to pay was caused by the pandemic. Palmer's companies allege that the moratorium, first put in place by Mayor Eric Garcetti as an emergency order, then approved as an ordinance by the city council, violated the takings clause established in the Fifth Amendment, which says private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. There we go. We're right back to the constitutional thing, okay? These eviction moratoriums, whether they be federal, state, local, whatever, they are all unconstitutional because they take without just compensation. And just to prove that point, I actually have a second article, and it's going over something else that's going in Los Angeles. And I'm going to cut over to that article right now as well. And it's coming out of theguardian.com, and it says, California promised 100% rent forgiveness for struggling tenants. Most are still waiting. So in this article, it's going over some of the flaws in the rental assistance program. Now, it goes more in a tenant perspective, but I want you to keep in mind that when the tenants aren't able to get rental assistance, that means the landlords are the ones who are not getting paid. Now, they never bring that up in this article because they're so focused on the tenants, but, let's see. I'm going to briefly mention a few of the facts in here that are, just absolutely ridiculous, okay? So it says, there have been big gaps in getting the assistance out. As of last week, 132,000 people have submitted initial applications for relief through the state. 91,000 have completed applications, and 20,000 of them, just 22%, have received financial aid. The state has doled out a total of $242 million, which is about 23% of the funds requested so far. Officials are now receiving more than 7,000 applications a week. Okay, but that's not all. Okay, so not only have they not gotten out a lot of these funds for the rental assistance yet, but A lot of places they've completely run out of funds. Like it says right here, the LA City program was only open for the month of April, shutting down after it was overwhelmed with requests from 110,000 people. Applicants claimed more than $500 million, which was more than double the amount allotted to the city, a spokesperson said, adding that the city expected to receive more funds and reopen applications around 15th of September. So basically, they just shut the program down, making it so landlords could not get compensated through the rental assistance program, and then they won't get any more funds until September. So the landlord's just sitting there having to take losses. And on top of that, even if you do have a tenant who puts in the application, it'll be months on end before you are compensated. This is what they expect. This is what they call just compensation. And it doesn't even bring up the fact that a lot of tenants won't even qualify for this 100% rental assistance that the state of California was proposing. Okay, that's only for the super low income tenants. So people who make less than 50% of the median household income. So that means a lot of landlords will be completely screwed over and receive nothing. And that might include the people in the first article, which I'm going to go back to right now. While the eviction moratorium ostensibly protects tenants who are unable to pay rent due to the circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic, it arbitrarily shifts the financial burden onto property owners, many of whom were already suffering financial hardship as a result of the pandemic and have no equivalent remedy at law, said the lawsuit, which was filed last week. GHP Management, a property management company, is a subsidiary of G.H. Palmer Associates, which owns more than 15,000 apartments in Southern California, according to the company's website. G.H. Palmer Associates is owned in turn by Palmer, a businessman known for developing beige apartment blocks in and around downtown Los Angeles with Mediterranean features and Italian names: Medici, Lorenzo, and Piero. So, yeah, I mean, this is absolutely crazy. I'm glad that this landlord is pushing this lawsuit, because somebody's got to do it, okay? Somebody has to push this all the way up to the Supreme Court if necessary in order to get these eviction moratoriums thrown out. Otherwise, local municipalities are going to, just keep pushing these eviction moratoriums, and they might be extended forever. And that is the last thing we want to see happen. So this article, it has a lot of stuff about this guy Palmer, and I think they're trying to paint him in a bad picture. I'm not going to read about it, okay? But, he's a landlord just like I'm a landlord, just on a bigger scale. And, I think that what he's doing will help small landlords in turn, especially if he's able to get this thing overturned. So let's skip down here to the end of the article, right? And one of the things that this article mentions, and it's a pretty important thing, is that, let's see here if I can find it. Because of the city's restrictions, lenders have refused to finance or refinance the loans on the properties managed by GHP, causing additional economic harm, the plaintiffs said in their lawsuit. In addition, building owners have been required to pay for electricity and other utilities in units where they are not receiving rental income, the filing said. Now, that is something that I haven't really brought up much because I deal mostly in residential, but when you're talking about commercial real estate investing, the properties themselves are valued based upon the rental income that they bring in. So when a property isn't able to bring as much rental income in, then it is valued lower. So this guy, he's running his company, and the problem is that when an eviction moratorium is going on, right, they can't value the properties in the same way that they would in normal times if a property was getting 100% of the rent that it was owed. So basically, they are preventing this guy from being able to get loans, and he can't refinance the property. And I've heard of cases even where commercial lenders will call the notes due because they aren't making the kind of cash flow that they should be making. And, imagine this company completely collapsing all because of this eviction moratorium. Now, you wouldn't think that would happen with such a large company, but it is possible. Remember, all of the things that happen to small landlords, they happen on a larger scale to these big landlords as well. So yeah, right now they were able to cover all their bills and everything, but this is temporary. Imagine all of their cash flow just being gone, okay? And they're just barely staying afloat. Or maybe they have enough emergency reserves to help them stay afloat. But if the eviction moratorium lasts much longer, the whole company could collapse. And there's probably hundreds of people who work for a company that owns 15,000 units. So this is not a good thing. And all of this, it just needs to come to an end. And I hope that their lawsuit is successful, because it will definitely be a good thing for landlords, not just in Los Angeles, but throughout the country, who are facing not just the federal eviction moratorium, but also the local and state ones.